The last few weeks, we have had a situation on our hands where flooding has become big news. And a lot of people have said that yes, it's happened in other parts of the world, in Spain, in Japan, in England, and other parts of the world indeed. But the one we experienced in Nigeria has caused the displacement of possibly and arguably maybe 1 million or plus more people all around the country. 17 states have experienced some amount of flooding, and it varied. But this morning, to discuss with us not just about the flooding, but also to look at the implication of flooding, especially with regards how our food supply and the supply chain will be affected. We want to take a look at that because we know that the Minister of Agriculture has said that there is not likely to be a major impact on food supply, or there's not going to be any kind of scarcity of food over the next year or two. But we want the experts to take a look at this, and to discuss that with us this morning, we've got Dr. Roberts Asiedu, who is IITA Director for West Africa. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And then we also have Mr. Paul Ilona, who is the Country Manager for Harvest Plus. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Now, let's start with you, Dr. Asiedu. Now, when you look at what has been said by the Minister regarding no scarcity of food, no serious impact in spite of the flood that we have had of late, how true can this be for somebody with your experience and knowledge of the agricultural terrain in Nigeria?
Well, thank you, sir. At the moment that where you have the water level high in most areas, there will certainly be a lot of losses of some of the produce that are already in the ground. We will lose some of the material that would have served as seed stocks for the next planting season. But the important thing is planning. We know we have the situation now. So I believe when the minister says that there wouldn't be very serious impact, he means that plans are afoot to ensure that the moment that the water recedes and it's possible to go back in and then put seeds in the ground, that there would be adequate seed stocks from other parts of the country, other parts of the same states that have not been affected, and if necessary, from other countries in the sub-region, because there is agreement within the sub-region that varieties released in some of the countries in the same ecologies can actually be moved across the borders to the member countries. That is an agreement that has been reached some time ago.
Now, Doctor, apart from the seed stock,
yes,
what about the quality of the soil itself? Would it still be as fertile as it was before the floods came?
Indeed, even it would have improved after the floods, because the flood is bringing good topsoil from many other areas, which will now form a layer over these areas where it's been affected. So when it settles, it actually improves. Okay. It's going to improve. It's alluvial soils that have been brought over.
So the recession of the water that flooded the area is not likely to erode
no, it's
the ground
actually,
soil?
It's actually, you see the water is moving from other areas.
Yes.
And then it's bringing with it fine particles that will settle, and it's bringing a lot of materials. And in addition to that, a number of the disease agents that would have been in the soil that would have caused sort of problems for the crops, some of these would have been suffocated and killed. So there are some benefits to that. But in the immediate aftermath, there would be pressure on enough food for people to eat while they are still planting. And even for that, with adequate planning, Nigeria is a big country. Nigeria has a lot of the agroecologies where different kinds of food are produced. So long as we ensure or the government ensures, and the private sector also, that food can be brought from other parts of the country in the immediate aftermath, then as the water goes down, there will be a lot of activity, giving people planting materials. And I know that the minister is working hard with his team in ensuring that we have adequate seed stocks. My own institute, IITA, has been contacted that all stocks of seed that we can produce ourselves or deliver ourselves, and our partners, we should get ready to contribute.
But you must, okay, well, let me say that myself as just an observer of what the layman on the street will think. If you have flood, there will be losses to farmers who have products or who have things planted. It will be washed away. There will be massive destruction. If you have a situation where there's massive destruction of property, what would happen to the current farmland that they have? Whatever they planted there,
crops.
a lot of it will be washed away. So that amount of loss, will it not affect the food chain?
Well, certainly what is in the ground and when the water really rose, a lot of that will be lost. I know that in some parts, the yams that were not ready for harvest, the farmers had to pull them out to avoid losing them. There will be a lot of losses. And so for those areas that were inundated, no doubt you are correct, there will be heavy losses. But this happens in many countries like that. And it is the ability of the government and the people in those areas where they are not affected to really respond and then bring help to those in those areas. That is really, I believe, a challenge for all of us. So certainly there will be heavy losses. But my belief is that there is enough, or there's a lot of food production in the country and in the neighboring countries. And it's a matter of organization. How quickly can we get some food and other materials to these areas? Imagine, if you take the example of cassava. At the moment, there's a lot of cassava being produced in the country. Nigeria is easily the largest producer of cassava in the whole world. Nigeria produces about 67% of the yams that are produced in the world. There's a lot of food production, but to get it to the right place is the challenge. There's a fair bit of export. And in a situation like this, instead of, say, the yams and cassava products moving north to the Sahelian countries, it will be a matter of now redirecting it down south where we have the challenges. So this is what gives me hope that there is enough being produced, a lot of which is exported. And if we have an emergency within the country, redirect it, and not really by, say, forcing people. It can even be on business principle. You are going to export it for money. There is a good market down here. So
Dr. Asiedu, sorry, I will come to Mr. Elona in a second, but the concern here is more along the lines of the loss. Have we quantified the loss that we're going to have before we begin to make projection as to how that would affect the supply chain? Because if we don't know the quantity of the loss we will have, how do we begin to do a projection of the fact that we're not going to have any impact on the food supply?
I believe that assessment is being done. And there are committees that will be working on that. But the government agencies will be able to give a better and more concrete response. I was in Abuja in a meeting where a lot of this was being discussed, and I know that there's a lot of effort into that. But my conviction is from the basis that if you consider the proportion of the country that is affected and the proportion that is unaffected and the capacity that is available in the rest of the country and the amount of food that is generated and even exported, with proper planning and with proper mobilization, we should not really have a situation where we have a long-term impact.